What's up, guys? We're here to go over UFC 270 or 286. Sorry, Edwards versus Usman 3, and it's a pretty good card. There's a couple fights we lost so far that I would have been really looking forward to. Lerone Murphy versus Nathaniel Wood, Gunnar Nelson versus Daniel Rodriguez would have been a good fight. But there's a lot of good fights on this card. Daniel Rodriguez was replaced with Brian Barberena, so yeah, whatever. But really, I think if this fight wasn't at I believe it's at the O2, right? Yeah, if it wasn't at the O2 Arena, I would say the fight that I'm most looking forward to on this card is Gaethje versus Fiziev. But it'll be pretty cool to see Leon Edwards fight Kamaru Usman at home. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's the best fight on the card since it's there. But I don't know if that makes sense. But it's always cool to see all these guys from over there, fighting at home and how the crowd is and everything. The crowds are always crazy over there. But so yeah, UFC 285 just happened. UFC Vegas 71 hasn't happened yet. Didn't win any money that night. I think I might have lost $50. I had two bets hit and two bets that didn't hit. I had a play on Dricus Duplessis minus 200 hit, and I had a two-man parlay on Bosserat and who was the other person? Pretty sad, I can't remember that. It was Bosserat. Hold on, guys, I'm checking. It was Bosserat and Gary. That's who it was. And it was a minus 155 parlay that hit, and then I had a small underdog play on Trevin Jones that didn't hit, and then I had a Rachmanov Shevchenko parlay that didn't hit. And then I said, I had like a $50 that I put on Gone, even though I picked John Jones to win. Shouldn't have done that, but I was just kind of doing that just so I could say I bet on him if he did win. But yeah, I mean, I stand by betting against Cody Garbrandt, but Trevin Jones, just his own stupidity lost him that fight. He went out there and he didn't throw anything, and even when he did have Cody hurt with the last 30 or 45 seconds of the fight, he went to the ground with him instead of getting up and trying to finish the fight. So as soon as he did touch Cody, Cody was hurt, which kind of goes with what I'm saying. So probably the next person that Cody fights, I'm going to be going against him again. But yeah, Trevin Jones, yeah, he just, I mean, I think his coach burned off on him. But his coach was pissed at him. But anyway, let's get into this card. Start down here at the bottom with Chris Duncan taking on Omar Morales. Chris Duncan is a pretty exciting fighter, and Omar Morales isn't a bad fighter either. Chris Duncan is 29 years old. He's 5'10 with a 71.5-inch reach. He's 9-1, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He's coming off a win on his second attempt at the Contender Series. He got knocked out by Vincius Borislav in his first attempt, and he was a big favorite there to win, I believe. And Borislav has proven to not have any takedown defense whatsoever. So since then, so that's not such a good look. Although he made a really good account of himself in that fight, before he got knocked out. He is really good. A lot of people are really high on him. I love seeing Scottish guys and girls in the UFC because there's been so few of them. And he's moved over to American Top Team. He's made a lot of good changes. He throws good leg kicks and kicks to the body. He does get hit a lot. He was close to getting finished on the Contender Series before he came back and got the knockout. He's a tough guy, but he kept getting rocked over and over again. He's got heavy hands. Just not good that every time we see him, against tougher competition, he's getting rocked and or knocked out, or I know he's only had one loss, but he's been rocked in two of the four fights that I've seen of his. So um, yeah, but I find him to be super exciting. Yeah, I wish all fighters kind of had his kill or be killed style. So he's always fun to watch. He's going to be taking on Omar Morales. He's 37 years old, 5'11", with a 74-inch reach. He's 11-3 and 3-3 in the UFC. He hasn't been the most active guy, but he's only lost to like really tough guys. He's very good. He's a big guy. He's coming off his first KO loss of his career. He was doing very well in that fight until he got caught. And that was against Euros Medic. Medic is an amazing striker. He's really well rounded, with his striking. So I don't think that's too bad of a look to go out there and be getting the better of the striking exchanges, and then yeah, he got caught, but it happens. But Morales he has great high kicks. He's got good striking, good counters. He has good takedown defense, and this is kind of a deal here where I want Duncan to win, but I'm going to be picking Morales. And I think he has a more well-rounded game. I think he's fought the tougher competition. Duncan's probably going to have the power advantage. I just think that Morales can, use his wrestling if he needs to, kind of giving him that X factor. But, Morales also hits pretty hard, and I can see him hurting Duncan on the feet. But, if if it was, from what I've seen, if Morales can't get this victory here, I would say, that's probably going to be closer to the end for him. A lot of people are high on Duncan, but I mean, from what I've seen, I don't quite understand what all the hype is about. I mean, I know he's exciting, but to see him get rocked a lot, that kind of tells a story that when he gets in here with these tougher guys, it could be a problem. But I'm rooting for him. I hope he wins, but I got to pick Omar Morales to win. Um, as far as a method of victory, I kind of want to say that he catches him, wins by knockout, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm just gonna say he wins by TKO. Yeah, first round or second round TKO. Next up, we got Sam Patterson taking on Ashmoz. This is pretty interesting matchup. Sam Patterson is 26 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach. He's 10-1-1. This is UFC debut. He's coming off a big submission win in the Contender Series. He's a really tall guy for the lightweight division at 6'3", so he's got a really long frame, long reach. I can guarantee you he's going to have the reach here. We don't have Ashmoz's reach on this, but I can guarantee you that that he's probably got like 8 to 10 inches of reach on him. He seemed like a slow starter. He lost the first round on the Contender Series, and then he kind of used his conditioning to take over in the second. Um, seemed to be a pretty good grappler with good submissions. He does leave his chin up in the air more than I would like. He backs out of the pocket with his hands down, so that kind of makes him easier to catch with a big punch if when he's fighting the right guy. Um, he is on a 9-fight win streak right now, so that's really impressive. I feel like the UFC is trying to give him, an easy layup fight here, and this Ashmo's guy is actually pretty good. It's just the super, height and reach advantage that he's got. Sam Patterson has over him, but Osmos is 27 years old. He's 5'9". We don't have his reach. He's fought over in the PFL, so he's fought decent competition. It's a pretty good organization, pretty big organization. He's 6-0, and he's coming off a win in the PFL. So this is no easy fight for Patterson. Patterson will be the way bigger guy. Like I said, he has really good ground and pound. Pretty good takedown defense. He's definitely a strong guy. He's really short and thick. He has good counter wrestling and trips. He has big power and good kicks. He throws wheel kicks. Honestly, dude, I saw a lot more to like watching Osmos and his fight than I did watching the Patterson fights. But he's going to be at such a huge height and reach disadvantage. It's hard for me to pick him. Based on what I've seen. And I think Osmos has a good chance to get some wins in the UFC. But I got to go with Patterson, with the home advantage and the reach advantage. And I'll say he wins by decision. But honestly, if Ashmoz figures out how to deal with the height and reach disadvantage, he might destroy Patterson. He's a very powerful guy, so I wouldn't put it past him. Anything can happen in this sport. So next up, we got Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Dusko Tordovic, and Leroy Duncan's a pretty good fighter, man. He is 27 years old, 6'2". We don't have his reach. And he's 7-0. All of his wins have been by finish. He has a long amateur career too, with tons of finishes. Very exciting guy. He had 25 amateur fights, so he's got a lot of experience. Uh, lots of power. He's very well rounded. Good push kicks and high kicks. He's got a good straight left. He switches stances really well as well. He sets up his spin kicks that way, and when he's switching stances back and forth. Uh, he's got pretty good takedown defense. Wasn't able to find much of his ground game from what I've seen of him so far. But he appears to be good everywhere. He throws great elbows. He's really fun to watch. I'm a really big fan of this guy's. I've been seeing him on Cage Warriors for a while. So I don't really, I didn't really have to watch a whole bunch of tape on him. I pretty much, know the scoop on this guy. And I'm very aware of how good he is. He's going to be taking on Dusko Tordovic. He is 28 years old. He is 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. He's 12-3 and 3-3 in the UFC. And I'm not going to spend too much time on Dusko here because I can't say he has the advantage anywhere here. But maybe the wrestling. He'll have to get the takedowns to win this fight for sure. He will. He's well rounded, but he cannot stay on the feet with Duncan here. Dusko gets hit a whole lot, so and Duncan's very powerful. So, looking at his record, he's only beat kind of the lower level guys in the UFC. The Jordan Wrights and stuff like that. I think Duncan is the man right now. He's going to get the win here, and he's being set up to get the win. They're trying to make a good prospect out of this guy. So. And it's going to be fun to watch him win at home and see the crowd lose it. So I'm going to go with Duncan by KO. Next up, we got Jack Shore taking on Amirkhani. And Jack Shore is really good. Actually, I was kind of blown away by how Ricky Simone handled him in his last fight, though, for sure. Um, yeah, I think I had money on Shore against him. So Jack Shore is 28 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. He's 16-1 and he's 5-1 in the UFC. So Shore cost me some money, like I said in his last time out. I thought he was a real deal. Ricky showed us that he was instead. Jack had nothing for him, which was pretty crazy. I don't know if it was just a bad night or if Ricky's really just that stout, big, strong wrestler. So Jack couldn't just have his way with him like he did everybody else. But it was the fight with Timur Valiev that sold me on how good Shore is. He looked really great in that fight against a very tough guy. I'm sure he learned from the Simone loss and will look better than ever. Uh, he has good wrestling, good takedowns. The striking's come a long way as well. His striking looked very good in the Timur Valiev fight. Um, he's a good size for the weight class. He has good power. He definitely can use his cardio as a weapon as well. He's got really good cardio. He pushes a really strong pace. This fight actually, according to Tapology, is going to be at featherweight. So maybe he isn't going to be that big of a guy for the weight class. So Makwan just got beat by JSP, and Jack Shore's game isn't much different than that. So, he may strike more than GSP, but I'm pretty sure that Makwan might be the bigger guy here. So we'll see how he does. But Makwan Amirkhani is 34 years old. He's 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. He is 17-8 and 7-6 in the UFC. He's only won one fight of his last five, and he has good submissions. He's pretty well rounded, but I think Jack's going to be the better fighter here, pretty much everywhere. You know, it is up a weight class. We'll see if Jack struggles with the size, but I don't think he will. Have any problems. I'm gonna go with Shore by submission in round two. Next up, we got mokaev taking on filho. And Muhammad Mokaev is 22 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. He's 8-0 and he's 3-0 in the UFC. So this guy is a star overseas, and he's kind of a star here too now. I'm a big fan of his. You know, he's super well rounded, good striking, good wrestling. He's got lots of finishes, mostly submissions. He applies tons of pressure. He fights at a super high pace. He's really good. He barely takes any damage in his fights. If you're a prize picks better, it's always an easy win, on the number of takedowns because he usually gets tons of takedowns. But I'm not going to give out, prize picks bets until they start paying me for it. So I need some sponsors. Uh, he's got good submission awareness and defense. He doesn't make his neck easy to guillotine when he's shooting all these takedowns. He likes to wrap one leg up and hold your back up against the cage, and just kind of pound you out from there, or he'll scoop the leg and get the takedown. He always has tons of control time in every fight. So it's like I said, it's pretty easy to, if you've got those options, to bet on him because he always kind of outdoes it. But I think this might be his toughest fight yet. And none of this is the Philo's UFC debut, but he is 29 years old, 5'7" with a 68.5-inch reach. So Mokaev's going to still have uh, like an inch and a half reach advantage here. Philo's 14-2, and this is going to be his UFC debut. He's coming off a big finish on the Contender Series. He's very experienced. I think this guy, like I said, might be the toughest that Mokaev's fought. Um, this guy is a good Muay Thai, good Jiu-Jitsu. I think all of his wins are by finish. He'll be giving up a little bit of reach here, like I said. Probably won't matter much, but he's pretty good. He's a pretty good grappler himself. Does a lot of body lock takedowns. He's a very strong guy. I think this will be a pretty good fight, honestly. Yeah, he's got good submission defense as well. He throws good combinations. He's a good fighter, but I don't see anything in his game that's going to be a problem for Mokaev. I'm going to be taking Mokaev to win by probably a late submission, round 3 on this spot. And Mokaev is going to be a giant favorite. So next up, we got Veronica Macedo taking on Juliana Killer Miller. Got one of her autographed gloves here sitting on my desk. So Macedo is 27 years old, 5'4" with a 64-inch reach. She is 6-4-1, and she is 1-4 in the UFC. So she hasn't looked very good in the UFC. Her last fight was with a girl that was way bigger than her, though, and she was landing some good shots in that fight in the first round. And that fight was also up at 135, but this fight's at 125. But honestly, I think the UFC are trying to give my girl Juliana Miller, the Killer Miller, the just an easy, good lineup. In her first fight, coming off the Ultimate Fighter Series contract and whatever. So, although Macedo showed to be pretty tough, and she does have pretty good striking, she'll need to be able to stuff the takedowns here. That's Miller's game. So, Juliana Miller is 26 years old. She's 5'7" with a 66-inch reach, so she's going to have 2-inch reach advantage here. Like I said, first fight since winning the contract on Tough. She's the only reason I used to watch that show. I was kind of a fan of hers. She's a really good grappler with good jiu-jitsu. I think she's going to get the win here, probably by sub or by decision. I wish I've been bugging her. I've messaged her on Instagram, commented on some of her stuff because I message a lot of fighters on Instagram and ask them about interviews, and some of them are nice enough to get back to me and talk to me, and they'll either tell me they don't have time or they'll tell me they'll do it one day, and they'll we'll set it up or whatever. I mean, I talked to Ian Heinisch, and he had agreed to do an interview, and he said he would get back with me whenever he had some time. And it's been a couple weeks, so I'm getting about to the point where I'm gonna message him and remind him about it. I know he's a busy guy. I think he's got a fight coming up. So, but no response from Miller yet. But I don't care. I'm still a fan. I'm gonna be picking her to win by decision or by sub, whatever. Next up, we got Herbert taking on Klein. And this is a pretty good fight. It's gonna be fun while it lasts, anyway. Grab some water real quick. So Jai Herbert is he's 34 years old, creeping up on 35. He's 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. He's a pretty long guy for the division. He's 12-4 and 2-3 in the UFC. He's a really exciting guy to watch. His striking's really good. He's never in a boring fight except his last fight where he was like playing it super safe. Uh, it was this guy's good enough that he was actually really close to beating Ilia Topuria in their fight before he got knocked out. He had hurt Topuria a couple times. He's got a really long frame for the division. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here. He's got strong leg kicks. Very technical striker, very fast hands. Doesn't have the best takedown defense, but he does scramble and get back up well. Usually the first few times before he kind of can't do it anymore. We saw that against Anato Makano, but I don't believe he'll have to worry about takedowns in this fight. He's got good high kicks. That's what he caught Topuria with. He also hit him with some quick knees in that fight. He played it safe in his last fight against Kyle Nelson. He's not the best of competition, but he does have knockout power, Kyle Nelson. So he kind of played it safe. He didn't want to get caught again. And he got the win by decision. He really fought super safe. It's not what we're normally used to seeing out of him. The only worry that I have with Jai is his chin. We've seen him, not just knocked out, but like badly knocked out, like cold. How guys will get rocked and dropped and they're still there. When the ref's stopping it and they're kind of just a little bit out of it. Well, Jai, has been knocked cold, unconscious. So, that worries me with him, not only for his health, but just for he gets hurt, and the guy he's going to be taking on here is called Mr. Highlight. So. Ludovic Klein is 28 years old, 5'7", with a 72-inch reach. So he's, not much. He's about Topuria's size. He's just a lot thicker and bigger than Topuria. More of a natural lightweight than Topuria. So, I could see Jai using that kick and those knees up the middle on Ludovic. But Ludovic's 19-4. He's 3-2 in the UFC. And he came into the UFC with that huge head kick knockout of Shane Young. So everybody was really high on him, and then he dropped a couple of fights. And, what his downfall in those fights were, if I remember correctly, was his cardio. He kind of slowed down. He struggled with the clinch a bit, a little bit with the grappling and with his submission defense. He goes to the body a lot with his kicks, as well as, he's just an amazing striker for sure. He's very fast, powerful, with those good combinations. He's going to be the bigger guy as far as muscle and power. He showed in his last 2 fights that he's really worked on the holes in his game. He's got better cardio now. He beat a really tough guy in Mason Jones. I think he looks a lot better at 155 than he did at 145, where he lost a fight to Nate Landwehr because he kind of tired out. Probably could have been from the weight cut. He's a pretty big 145er. His high kicks once again are very fast, and he counters very well. At one point I wrote him off, but I'm back on board. I think with Jai's chin the way it is, I got to go with Klein. I'm going to say KO round 1. I think Klein's got fast hands, and I would say, if Jai hadn't been knocked out like he had been, the few times in the UFC, I'd probably be more comfortable picking him. But I've got to go with Ludovic Klein here. So next up, we got Jennifer Maia taking on Casey O'Neill. And Jennifer Maia is 34 years old, 5'4", with a 64-inch reach. She is 29-1 and 5-5 in the UFC. She's pretty good. She's only lost to the girls at the top of the division. The Caitlin Chukagians and all that. That's most girls lose to Caitlin Chukagian. So, and Manon Farrow, I believe she lost to her. She's very well rounded. She's got a pretty good ground game, good takedowns. She's got decent boxing. She won a round against Valentina Shevchenko. It's kind of like her claim to fame. She got the takedown on that round and was able to control her for that round. And she's a good veteran. She's been around a while. She's fought all the tough competition, the way tougher competition than her opponent. And her opponent is Casey O'Neill, 25 years old. 5'6" with a 69-inch reach, so she's going to have 5 inches of reach here. So yeah, she's going to be the bigger girl. She's 9-0 and 4-0 in the UFC. So she's good. She's undefeated. Everybody's picking her here. She's gotten a few good finishes, which is probably why everybody's making a big deal, out of her. She has good striking. She puts out good volume. She's born in Scotland but trains in Australia. She's really good. She somehow had a split decision with Roxanne Modafferi. I don't know. I think maybe the judges were just smoking crack that day, but um, she has good power. She doesn't load up on her strike. She's got good straight shots. Hasn't really fought very good competition yet, so that's the only thing that I would say for y'all to worry about if you're betting on this fight. But honestly, she's won mostly by finishes, so she's won how a good prospect should against the worst competition. Maia will have to get the takedowns to win this fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if she did get the takedowns and win. But I'm going to be picking, the hot new prospect, the one that's undefeated. I'm gonna say she wins by decision. I don't know if she's going to get a finish over a veteran like Jennifer Maia. So next up, we got Jake Hadley taking on Malcolm Gordon. And Jake Hadley is 26 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. He's 9-1 and 1-1 in the UFC. He made his debut against Alan Nascimento, a really good grappler, and he lost because he got out grappled. And a lot of people get out grappled by Alan Nascimento, so I ain't gonna hold that against him, especially being his UFC debut. Um, but in his next fight, he looked amazing. I'm really looking forward to seeing him fight at home. He's very fast. He has good striking defense. He blocks punches with his elbow. He kind of like uses his elbow and brings it up to block punches coming at his face. It's really, really slick. Um, and he has good kicks to all levels. He uses his jab very well. He throws good elbows in close. He's got great cardio, and he actually is a good grappler. Just Al Nascimento just a little bit better, but he has great submissions. He puts out tons of volume. He's really fun to watch. And he's super talented, and I see why everybody was really hyped up on him coming into the UFC. And he's going to be taking on Malcolm Gordon. He is 32 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. He's 14-6 and 2-3 in the UFC. And not I know a lot of people used to talk a lot of shit about Gordon. But he actually is a good fighter. If you've watched all his fights leading into the UFC and stuff, and he did make a good account of himself against Mokaev as well. I thought, he had nothing but finishes before coming to the UFC, which is why I like him. He was really on a roll, and he just hadn't been able to put it together in the UFC quite as much. He's a very powerful guy for the weight class, and he's very well rounded. He has good submission. He hasn't had too many easy fights. He's had. Let's see some of the people he's fought. He fought Amir Albazi. That's a really tough fight. Sumadarji is a slick puncher. Not the best look now, but at the time he was a big deal. He beat Francisco Figueiredo, Dennis Bondar. That was like a Dennis Bondar's arm got elbow came out of socket or something. And he lost to Mokaev. So his losses aren't to horrible people. He's got good ground and pound. He's not a bad wrestler. But with all that said, Malcolm will have to get the takedowns if he wants to win this fight. Hadley's going to be way faster on the feet. I got to pick Hadley to win. I'm going to say he wins by decision, but I'm kind of secretly rooting for Gordon, unless I decide to put money on Hadley. I imagine he'll be too big of a favorite for me to get anything going on him. I might have him in a big parlay or something, but yeah, we'll see how it turns out. And next up, we got Gunnar Nelson taking on Brian Barberena. And Gunnar Nelson, 34 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. He's 18-5-1 and 9-5 in the UFC. I was super happy to see him finally come back last year. He's really talented. He's got good grappling, world class jiu-jitsu. He's a black belt in some kind of like karate. It's a different kind of karate, kind of version of karate that from over there where he's from in Iceland. I'm not sure on the name of it. What it's called. It's been too long since I've heard the name, but we haven't seen many people from Iceland, in the UFC. He uses his wrestling to win in his last fight. He usually tries to use his wrestling, pretty well. And I honestly expect this fight to look a lot like his and Barberena's last fight. Him using his wrestling to get the takedowns and probably, coming out on top. So Ryan Barberena is 33 years old, 6 foot tall, with a 72-inch reach. So their reaches are the same here. He's 18-9 and 9-7 in the UFC. He's a good veteran. He thrives in wild fights and brawls. But he struggles with grappling, and his takedown defense isn't very good. And so I've got to go with Nelson here. I'm gonna say he gets a submission, probably round two, rear naked choke. I expect this fight to look like his last fight with RDA. Pretty easily taken down and controlled. Uh, Definitely. I mean, Barberena is fun to watch. When you put him in there with the good strikers, he'll go to war with them. But I think he's going to get taken down here, and I know Gunner's a big favorite, so we'll see if I can let y'all know what my bets are at the end of this. So next up, we got Joanne Wood taking on Luana Carolina, and Joanne Wood is 37 years old. Man, I didn't realize she was 37 now. 5'6" with a 65.5-inch reach. She's going to be giving up a few inches of reach here. She's 15-8 and 7-8 in the UFC. She's been around a long time, and I'm a big fan of hers. She's well rounded, but she's on a bad run right now. She's only won one of her last five. She's kind of become like a gatekeeper for the top five of the division. All the top girls are going through her. She's fought everyone. Way better competition. She has pretty good hands. Okay takedowns. I wouldn't say she's super high level with the wrestling and grappling, but she's good enough to where she can use it. If given the opportunity. And I'm kind of torn on this fight at first, but you know, um, yeah. So Luana Carolina is 29 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. She's gonna have a couple inches of reach here. She's 8-3 and 3-2 in the UFC. Woods is a big favorite on Tapology here, and I'm gonna be picking Carolina. I like her Muay Thai. She's younger. She's improving. I'm staying away from this fight. I'm picking Carolina to win, but I'm rooting for Joanne for sure. Um, and that's why I'm staying away from it, because I am a big Joanne fan and I want her to win. But with the picks, I've got to be honest. So I'm gonna pick Carolina to win. But I'm gonna be rooting for Joanne, and I'm not gonna put this in a parlay or anything, so I can root for Joanne and not feel bad about it. Uh, so next up, we got Marvin Vettori taking on Roman Dolidze. This is another really good fight on this card. Uh, Roman is he's a bad man. I had my doubts about him, so he's really proven it. Marvin Vettori is 29 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. He's 18-5-1 and 8-4-1 in the UFC. This is going to be a crazy fight. It's a good matchup. Marvin is very well rounded. He's fought for the title. He's a really tough guy. He's got good striking. Not a whole lot of knockouts. I don't know if he had a bunch before the UFC, but I don't think he's knocked anybody out in the UFC. He can use his wrestling, when he needs to. I'm not gonna say he's like super skilled at wrestling and grappling, but he's well rounded, and he can use it. He can definitely exploit people that don't have good wrestling. I'm not saying he doesn't have good wrestling. I'm just saying that he's not like the super high level, but he can use it, against people that don't have it. But Delite definitely has it. You know, he's he's fought all the top guys in the division. He's been at the top of the division for a long time now. He's got 5 round cardio. He pushes a crazy pace. On guys, and that could definitely benefit him in this match. It would definitely benefit him a lot more if it was a 5 round fight, but it's not. But he's going to be taking on Roman Dolidze. He is 34 years old, 6'2", with a 76-inch reach. He's going to have a couple inches of reach here. He's 12-1 and he's 6-1 in the UFC. And Roman's very good. He's got huge power. He's a really good wrestler and grappler. He has great submissions. He's been an underdog in like his last, I don't know how many fights. I know he was an underdog. He was an underdog against Dawkins. He was an underdog against Phil Hawes. He was an underdog against Jack Hermanson, and he finished all those fights very quickly. Very impressive. He throws good elbows in the clinch. Fights mostly southpaw. He's got good sweeps. He's a very good counter wrestler. You don't see him going too much to his wrestling until people start trying to take him down. Then he kind of reverses and sweeps them and stuff. But he really improved himself last time out, beating a guy like Jack Hermanson. And he out grappled him. He doesn't put out a ton of volume, but he makes up for that with his power. And I really wish he would use, his world class grappling more. He's so good when he uses it. He's also, really dangerous off of his back. He'll switch from one submission to another, back and forth repeatedly until he finds something. He got that calf slicer, and then, he caught Hermanson in the calf slicer and had basically his back with his legs trapped in the calf slicer, so he couldn't get away, and he was just pounding him out, and got the finish. The only worries I've had about him have been his cardio, which I think he's worked on a bit. He's looked like his cardio is a little bit better in his past few fights, even though they haven't been going the distance, so we don't know for sure. But and his volume wasn't very good, but other than that, he's pretty solid. He's going to have his work cut out for him here because I don't think Vettori has been finished by anyone. Tapology, everybody's going with Vettori, but I'm going to go with dolidze here by submission. I think he's going to have to use his grappling, and either get a sub or win by decision by control time. I'm done doubting this guy. He's really good, and Vittori's been at the top of the division for a while, and maybe it's somebody else's time, and maybe that's why they're pushing dolidze so fast. Um, you know, um, this is a guy who's been calling out Kamzat Chimaev. He ain't scared of anybody, especially with the grappling. He's so good. So really looking forward to that fight, and I'm gonna be picking dolidze by submission. Next up, got an awesome fight: Justin Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev. Uh, Justin Gaethje is 34 years old. He's 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. He's 23-4 and 6-4 in the UFC. And this guy's one of my favorite fighters. He's been in the top of the division for a while now. He's fought all the toughest guys. He's fought for a title twice, I believe. Um, he's always in wars. He's never in a boring fight. This one should be a wild fight. Should be really good. He's taking on one of the best strikers in the UFC right now in Fiziev. Gaethje's got heavy hands. He's a pretty good striker. He's pretty wild at times. He can take a lot of punishment. He has a bit of a wrestling background. He was a Division I wrestler. Not that he ever really uses it. He throws hard leg kicks. He's very effective with them. He throws a lot of hooks and power punches. He'll load up on his shots real bad. But he can do it for. He can absolutely do it for 5 rounds. So nothing against him for that. He's very fast with his counters. His coach is Trevor Whitman. He's a very, very good coach and a very decorated fighter himself. The only thing I worry about for him is when all the wars that Justin's been in is going to start catching up to him. He takes a lot of damage as well, and he gives it out too. But I don't think it's caught up to him yet. I just worry for him, down the road in the future to when all these wars are going to catch up to him, and his chin might go away, and I just don't want to see that for him because I'm a super big fan of his. He's going to be taking on Rafael Fiziev. He's 30 years old. He's 5'8" with a 71.5-inch reach. He's going to have an inch and a half reach advantage. He's 12-1, and he's 6-1 in the UFC. This guy is one of the best strikers in the sport of MMA right now. I really respect him a lot. He's really amazing to watch. Fiziev, he first took up Muay Thai when he was 11 or 12 years old. And Fiziev's also trained in combat sambo, boxing, jiu-jitsu. I believe he's one of the coaches at Tiger Muay Thai. He's a world champion Muay Thai fighter. He's gonna have he throws really hard leg kicks. He throws crazy spin kicks as well, and they're super fast. A whole variety of kicks, really. Front kicks up the middle as well. Throws long combinations, when they're necessary. Once people come in, he'll fucking throw 3 or 4 punch combinations real fast. He counters very well. He stays very calm. He doesn't overexert himself. And honestly, all the questions I had about him were answered. In his last fight, in the RDA fight. He stuffed the takedowns. I know he got takedown briefly in the Riddell fight, but he got right back up. I'm just not sure if he's ever been taken down that many times in the UFC. Can't remember, but he went into the 5th round in that fight, and he got to finish in the 5th round. So that showed me that he's the whole package, man. If you ask me, and if RDA wasn't able to get the takedowns on him. Justin wouldn't be able to either. Not that he's really going to try. I'm gonna be taking fiziev here. I wish this was a 5 round fight. I think that'd be fun if it was 5 rounds. I'm saying Fiziev's probably gonna win by decision. I think he's way more technical and he'll land the bigger shots. Justin's been wobbled quite a bit in his last few fights, so I could see some moments in there for Fiziev that would sway the judges. Maybe Gaethje lands more, but Fiziev rocks him in every round or drops him, and I don't see him finishing Justin. No, Justin's really tough. So next up, we got the main event: Leon Edwards taking on Kamaru Usman for the third time. Um, Leon Edwards is 20-3. He's 12-2 in the UFC. 31 years old, 6'2", with a 74-inch reach. Usman's going to have 2 inches of reach on him. This guy's the man. He shocked the world. Head kick heard around the world. And it was funny because I was actually watching that fight that night, and I watched it all the way into like the 4th round, and Kamaru was just taking him down and whatever, and I was just kind of bored with it, and I was like, I'm going to bed. It's a long night. It was pretty late, so I went to bed, and then I woke up the next day and checked everything, and saw that Leon had won and knocked him out in the 5th round. So I was blown away by that, and it was really cool to see. It was like really touching to see him get that win. You see guys picking their kids up when he knocked out Usman and hugging them, and just everybody. It was really cool, man. I'm a big fan of Leon Edwards for sure. He's a really good striker. He's a way better striker than Kamaru Usman, and he has good takedown defense. Usman's very good wrestler, so he's able to get the takedowns on pretty much anybody. And Leon's very tough. We've never really seen him, very hurt in a fight. He's got good cardio for the 5 rounds. His power carries over to the 5th round. He's going to be taking on Kamaru Usman, who is 20-2, 35 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 76-inch reach. I think I said he's going to have a couple inches of reach. He's 15-1 in the UFC, and you don't see a lot of people with records like that. He's a very good wrestler. He has powerful shots. His striking's come a long way. He's coming off his first knockout loss to this man, Leon Edwards, and this is tough because I'm a big Leon Edwards fan, and I hate having to pick against the guys that I'm big fans of, because I've never really. I respect Kamaru Usman, but I've just never been a really big fan of him. I know how good he is. At first I wasn't convinced until he knocked out Masvidal and Burns, and and he was winning, the fight the last time out. He was controlling them. He was getting the takedowns. And Leon was looking very lost, and so it's hard for me to sit here and say I've got to pick Usman, to get the takedowns, but I'm rooting for Edwards, and um, Edwards is probably going to end up being a pretty big underdog, so I'm probably going to end up doing the same thing I did last week, and I'm going to pick Usman to win, but I'm going to put a small bet on Edwards, like I did with Cyril Gahn. I put $50 on Gahn just so I could say I did, But I got to pick Usman to win. I hope Leon Edwards wins. I hope he knocks him out again. This thought was funny because they were all giving all that talk about Kamaru Usman before the last fight being the greatest welterweight of all time and all this stuff, and he got knocked out, and that's what all that stuff going to your head does to you, So I'm really looking forward to the fight, and rooting for Edwards. I'm probably going to put a little bit of money on him, but being real with y'all, I'm picking Usman to win, but don't do what I do. So, anyways, guys, that's all my picks for this card. As far as bets go, right now, I've got a play on Rafael Fiziev at -225. I caught that a few days ago. It's 2 units. I got a play on Ludovic Klein at -160. That's 3 units. I got a underdog play on Roman Dolidze. It's just half a unit. I've got a Shore and Nelson parlay. I didn't write down what the line was on it. I think it was like -160 something. Oh, -165. There it is, and that's half a unit on that. And so that's what I got so far. If Omar Morales winds up being a big underdog, I might put half a unit on him as well. and I'm debating on a play on Leroy Duncan. I know he's on at one of these books. He's minus 198 right now, which is a pretty good line on him. And if I do add those, I'll probably just add half a unit on each of those. And I'm gonna go tell y'all now that it's just a future line. I went ahead and put half a unit on Arnold Allen down the road for his fight with Max Holloway. It's plus 130 right now on which book is that on? I think it was on Bovada. I don't know. I used two or three different books, so but I think it was on Bovada. But the reason I did that is because I'm a huge Max Holloway fan. I had money on him in the second and third, Volkanovski fight. I thought he won the second one. He looked horrible in the third. And he didn't even look that good against Yair Rodriguez when they fought. I know he got the win, but it was a close fight, and I thought he could have lost. So he seems to have slowed down quite a bit, and that's the only reason I'm going against him. I'm a big fan of his, but I'm also a big Arnold Allen fan, and I got to give credit where it's due. So I think Arnold Allen's a beast, and he's on a roll right now. So I'm going with Arnold Allen. I think he is going to deserve a title shot here pretty soon. So uh, other than that, man, I appreciate you guys. Please like and subscribe. As always, don't forget to check out Chris Lytle's podcast, Lights Out Podcast. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm saying it because I enjoy the podcast and I consider him, a friend now. He was nice enough to do an interview with me. Y'all should check that out. It's on my channel. He's a super nice guy. He's one of my favorite fighters, growing up. His show's really good. Got all the old guys from the UFC back in the day. They tell all kinds of crazy stories, talk about what it was like at the beginning of the sport. They talk about fighting over in Japan. It's really cool. So I don't get paid for this. I'm doing it because I like Chris Lytle and I like his show. So I'm not getting paid for that. I'm just I'm putting it out there because I enjoy it and I want other people to enjoy it too. So appreciate you guys, man. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. See y'all later, man. Y'all have a good one.